Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode in the Introduction to Scripting for ROBLOX Lua. In this episode, we're going to be talking about breaking out of a function, which I'm probably going to relate to breaking out of jail, but I don't advise breaking out of jail. I do advise breaking out of functions when necessary, though. Just a heads up there. And finite loops. Last tutorial we went over infinite loops, meaning there was no end in sight. There was never going to be anything that stopped it except the end of the game itself. In this tutorial, we will be going over breaking and finite loops. And both of them actually have to do with finite loops. So the grander idea today is finite loops. So let's go ahead and write ourselves a while true do loop. A while true do loop. That we already would be familiar with. So while true do print hello world wait 1. So this is going to print hello world once every second for the entirety of the gameplay. So it's just going to do it once every second, never stopping, never ceasing. We already understand that. How could we make it to where it stops at a certain point, though? Well, this is what we would have be a finite loop. Now, there's two ways to do a finite loop. Two ways to do a finite while loop. There's other types of loops, and there's different ways to make different loops finite. But to do a finite while loop, there's two really good ways. One of them is called breaking, and the other is change the condition. We're going to start with the change the condition because it's kind of going to have the same idea as a break. And it's also the grander idea today. So, we're going to declare a variable up here. Local number equals, why did I put that? 0. Okay, so we're just going to go here and we're going to do while number is less than, not greater than, come on, work with me keyboard, less than 5. While number is less than 5, do print hello world wait 1. Okay, right now the number is set to 0. The number is in fact less than 5. 0 is less than 5. 0 is less than 5. However, this is still an infinite loop in that case because never is number going to be greater than or equal to 5. It's always going to be 0. How can we change that? Well, in our loop, let's just do number equals number plus 1. And now this while loop is going to go through itself until number is equal to 5, because at that point, it's no longer less than 5. So if we test and we run, here we go. Hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world. Mixed in with a couple of issues and like stupid studio stuff that it wants to throw in our output. Let's stop real quick, and I want to make this a little bit more obvious. First off, let's make this in all caps because sometimes it's a little hard to see the lowercase. And we're going to add a whole bunch of exclamation marks. Okay? Make it really obnoxious, really easy to see. At the end of this while loop, we're going to print loop is over. Okay? Now I want to note something. Actually, I'll note it after this. But I want you guys to think of something here. Which is going to print first? Will loop is over print before the loop is actually over? Because this code is written on the same level as this. Does this code have to wait for the loop to finish? It's a question we're going to be asking ourselves here as we run this game. Here we go. We got hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world. Loop is over. It said hello world 5 times. And then it said loop is over. So we can draw two conclusions from this. And by the way, after loop is over, nothing else is printed yet. Not a single hello world or anything else. But the only thing we really care about is the hello world right now. Hello world has not printed at all. So we can clear our output stop this test and go back. So two things we drew from this. One, the loop did in fact stop. It only printed hello world 5 times, which, if we do the math, is correct, because starting at 0 and going up to 5, that's 5 times that it should print hello world. So as soon as this became false, it stopped. And again, as soon as it became false, because we didn't put this in a variable, had we done this, had we done something like local bool equals this, this is a lot like that function thing when I was talking about functions and returning. The bool has a one set value. It never reevaluates itself unless you force it to. So this is true, and this is virtually the same thing. In fact, it is the same thing, just a little bit slower for Lua to calculate as a while true do, because this is true and it's never going to change. But the fact that we put this in like this makes it reevaluate the condition each and every time, more like a function. This is kind of like a miniature function that calls and runs every time it needs to check and go through the loop again. Okay, so just a brief thing there. That like the condition can and will change if necessary, because it does it automatically. It always checks the condition. Anyway, so the number, as soon as it hit 5, it stopped because it was no longer less than 5. It stopped printing hello world. And we noticed that after it printed hello world 5 times, that is when it printed loop is over. So the two things we can draw from this is, one, that the condition does in fact change, and you can change the value of something that's outside of the loop from within the loop, and that can cancel the loop. We learned that, okay, yes, this condition reevaluates itself every time through the loop, and if it becomes false, the loop stops. It just stops dead in its tracks. It doesn't go one more time through, it just stops. It's like, oh, this isn't true anymore, go past me. And we learned that until the loop is over, it never goes past the loop. This print loop is over would never have happened until the loop ended. So had this been a while true do loop, print loop is over would never ever have happened in the code that you see in front of you right now. So that's how you can make a finite loop, a finite while loop using a condition. So we're going to keep this while true do, and we're going to keep number equals 0. But now, instead of this print hello world wait 1, well, actually we're keeping that, but in between here, instead of changing the condition, we're going to use a break. Now a break is going to be relativized to breaking out of jail, and I'll explain that here in a second. But we're just going to put if number is greater than or equal to 5, then print let's do this in all caps too. Gotta break out. Okay? Break. So I'm going to explain this real quick. Every time we go through the loop, we're going to check if the number after we've added 1. Right here, we've take the number, we add 1 to the number, and then immediately after that, we check if the new value for number, so the number plus 1 or whatever, if we check if number is greater than or equal to 5. Now technically, we could just do equals equals, meaning if the number is equal to 5. But sometimes it's just, I mean, it can't really hurt to do a little bit of safety in your code to make sure that maybe something glitched. Don't count on a computer glitching, but it's sometimes possible. It might have gone through one more time. Don't know how, but you might as well catch it. So that's why we're doing greater than or equal to. So if the number is greater than or equal to 5, meaning it could be 5, or it could be 6, or it could be 1,000, but no matter what, it'd be greater than or equal to 5 in any of those cases. But if it were 4, it wouldn't be. So greater than or equal to 5, then it's going to do what's in this if statement. It's going to print to the output, gotta break out, okay? And now we see the jail kind of thing. And jail's not even all that great of an example in this. It's more like maximum security prison, and you're serving a life sentence here, okay? So you've got a while true do, right? You've got your while true do. And that is infinite. It never ends until the game ends, until the game dies. There's nothing you can do. This loop is going to go on forever, for the lifespan of the game. A break stops that. It gets you out of the loop sort of prematurely. I mean, if you're programming it to do that, it's not prematurely because you want it to get out. But in this analogy, it's getting out prematurely. It's getting out before the end of the game. The condition is still true, possibly. The condition is still definitely true at the time that it last evaluated it. But you're breaking out. You're saying, I don't care about the condition anymore. We're stopping here. And it works a little bit like a return as well, which I'll explain here in a moment. But you're just breaking out of the loop. It will not run the loop anymore. It stops the loop dead in its tracks, and I'll explain that here in a second as well. But you're breaking out of the loop. It's not going to run anymore. So let's go ahead and change this to, no. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, we're going to change it to if number is greater than or equal to 3. And we're going to go back here, and we're going to change our while true do back to number is less than 5. So we know that when we had it like this, the loop ran 5 times. How many times will it run before it says gotta break out? And then how many times will it say hello world? And then of course we'll see the loop is over. But how many times will it do that with this here, with this break in whenever it's greater than or equal to 3, meaning whenever it's 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. Let's clear our output again. Test and play. Okay, we get 1 hello world, 2 hello world, and that's it. It broke out. Why? Why did it stop after only 2? It didn't go through all 5 like it did earlier. How does that happen? It just stopped. It said loop is over. It said gotta break out, and then it said loop is over right away. It didn't say hello world again. And let's look at the script to see why is that confusing us. Well, first off, we know that if the number is greater than or equal to 3, okay, which I shouldn't have said 4. It could be 3, okay? I forgot that it was greater than or equal to. If it were only greater than, then it would be 4. But it's greater than or equal to 3. So if the number is greater than or equal to 3, then it's going to print gotta break out, and it's going to break. But down here, okay, we know that break stops the loop, right? Like, okay, it's not going to do the loop again, even if the condition is still true. It's not going to do the loop again. But we saw that when it said gotta break out, it didn't say hello world again. What? But down here it says hello world. So it's printing, and then it should print hello world, right? No, this is where break is a bit like return. Break goes to the nearest loop, the loop it's in, because I'll explain this later on, but you can have a loop within a loop within a loop. You can have loops within each other, okay, like loop-de-loops, but just throw that out of your mind right now. It will break out of the current loop. So it stopped this loop, this while number is less than 5 do loop, this while loop. It broke out of this while loop, and it stopped it dead in its tracks. It's not going to go past this break. Just like a function, it's done right there. Now a break can't give a value after it. A return can give a value. A break doesn't give a value. Okay, that's the difference between a function and a loop. So a break doesn't give a value. So while number is less than 5 do, blah, blah, blah. Once it hits 3, because of this, it's going to break. And it's not going to go down to here. It's going to go from here all the way straight to here. Okay? So as soon as you see a break, as soon as it hits a break, it goes to the end, and then it goes forward from there. It's not going to hit anything after the break. So we have if number is greater than or equal to 3, then print gotta break out, break, end, go. and we saw that it didn't print again, right? Yeah. So that's how you can create a finite loop. You can do it either by the condition, making the condition invalid, or by breaking out of the loop. You can break out of the loop, kind of break out of prison, because you're ending the loop prematurely. And here's the prison analogy, just to wrap that up. If you're in prison for serving a life sentence, you're not supposed to get out ever. You're supposed to die there, right? A break in an infinite loop, which I know this isn't infinite, but anyway, a break out of an infinite loop stops the loop before the game ends, right? So that's the analogy. Anyway, we learned about finite loops using the condition and finite loops using the break command. Again, the break stops the loop dead in its tracks. It no longer cares about the condition. It is not going to go through the loop again at all. And a break cannot return a value. It can't have a value after it like a return, but it does work like a return in every other way. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this tutorial. If you did, please make sure to tell your friends about it. If you have any questions, please go down to the questions section below and check that out and just ask away. If there's any questions that you can answer down there, please be a helpful member of the community, help the people around you, and help improve the intelligence of programming for everybody by answering those questions. You can also go to the forum if you need it. And yeah, so thank you guys. Have a great day, and I will catch you all next time.